As part of our 20th anniversary celebrations in 2024, Pharos Architectural Controls is spotlighting 20 people and projects that have helped to shape our company and our products and continue to inspire us every day. Simon Hicks from Pharos and I are really excited today to be joined by Dominic Harris, artist, to talk about his experiences of working with Pharos on the Out of This World project, the UFO. Hello, both. It's so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, yeah.
Dominic, I mean, let's get into it. And if you can give us a bit of an overview of what the UFO project was and what the brief was that you received, so we can really kind of understand the background to it, that would be fab.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And the UFO is part of I suppose, a very niche range of work that I've undertaken. But then that's what Cinimod Studio was doing. Cinimod Studio is a company that creates kind of unique and immersive and interactive experiences, both using video and using lighting. And it's always been something that I like to do, which is I'm trained as an architect, but I love software, code, and light. I'm always looking for projects which have something unique in them, something where it's not just the end result is the memorable part, but also something that I'm going to gain from the experience of delivering it. So I love that sense of pushing boundaries, pushing the envelope, and with the UFO. The UFO is just one of those projects. I didn't realize at the time that I was going to become this kind of world expert in UFO building, which, by the way, is a very niche business. I mean, there's not that much demand, but it did turn out that every time somebody needs a UFO, as happened later on with Microsoft and the Halo 4 kind of UFO stunt over London, it turns out that everybody in the world started coming to Cinimod Studio and myself to kind of deliver these crazy spectacles, and they were crazy. They're hard projects to conceive, hard projects to design and deliver, and certainly not without a fair amount of challenges in the execution. It's been an amazing process.
Yeah, and the first one was in Poland, I think. So that was the launch, and then it did Rio de Janeiro, and finally London was almost a year later.
Well, we also did Barstow in California, which was pretty hair-raising as an experience. But you're right. The whole project came about through it was a collaboration with the US artist Peter Coffin. And I think the UFO was his vision. It was a project that he had been wanting to do for a long time, and every time he started talking to people about how to build and fly a UFO, he found it really difficult. It was literally a difficult project to get off the ground. And sorry, I had to do that.
You did.
But he talked to me, and what Cinimod Studio was set up to do was, and through my training, but also the team that was within the studio, we were able to break it down into the component parts. I mean, first of all, the research of what does a UFO look like at night. So you go onto YouTube, you find all the recorded videos of UFO sightings, you listen to the crazy stories told by pilots and people out in the desert. So you kind of know roughly what you're looking for. You look at Hollywood also for references. Then it became mechanical design and architectural design. How do you physically construct it? Then you get into how are you going to fly it? And we went through, we've used a large number of different types of helicopters in different parts of the world to kind of fly this UFO structure as a kind of big underslung bit of cargo on a strop line. And you've got all that going. And then the reason you're doing it is you want people to look at it and see it. And that's where the lighting came in. And that's where the UFO wasn't just an exercise about getting a huge, and these were huge. I mean, they ranged from 8 meters up to 50 feet in size. So big flying structures. But it was also the level of lighting that we put on them. So we were building these UFOs with petrol generators on board. So they had to be self-contained in terms of power source. They were built with a large amount of Philips color kinetics LED lighting. And then later on, I started adding police beacons, siren lights, and all sorts of things. And there was this brain in it. The brain had to control how the UFO behaved. I wanted the light patterns to be on remote control from the ground, which is another one of these kind of mad things. But I just thought, if you're flying a UFO, then surely you want to be able to control it from the ground rather than just let it go on its way. So that's where the whole story started, really, with Simon and the whole Pharos team, was finding something that could drive the level of lighting we needed, which I think in context, it's important to remember when this was. These projects were a while ago, and there weren't very many people out there who had solid state, robust bits of kit that could drive large amounts of RGB LED pixels individually and do it in a way where you still had, a really nice interface where you could kind of pre-visualize, test, and map out. So Pharos became this kind of it was initially conceived to be quite ceremoniously placed on the UFO. It had its own lovely kind of display cabinet. In the end, we had to, and I know I apologized to Simon at the time, we had to strip off some of the elements to get the weight down a bit.
Yeah.
But the Pharos was there, and it just took every bit of shock and vibration and all the variables of the performance that were needed. And it was a pleasure to use. I mean, it just meant I could sit there along with Peter Coffin, and we could just design content, test out patterns, and then see them in flight.
Yes, of course, you needed the light, because it had to be. I mean, that essentially masked the helicopter, didn't it? It did. You flew it at night, but so you had the sound of something flying, but what the audience saw from the ground really was the UFO was so much more striking than any sort of beacon on the helicopter. So
absolutely. And different parts of the world gave us different flight control rights. So some places we were able to fly with all the lights off on the helicopter, which was quite nice.
Oh, really? Because the lights were on so they considered the lights on the UFO to be sufficient.
Yeah, sufficient.
Safety. Oh, that is. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
It was amazing when we were flying through Barstow, California. We're actually flying through some mountain valleys and heading out towards the open air drive-in cinema, where the band Beck was playing at the same time, and this was part of the performance. But the helicopter was flying with its lights off, and the light emanating from the UFO itself was providing the ground light coverage he needed to be able to safely navigate through these valleys. So it was this kind of weird and wonderful, complex system of systems intertwined.
Yes, I mean that does say something for what you needed in terms of reliability from the whole structure, the fixtures, your power infrastructure, the control, keeping everything on, because we were actually being your helicopter navigation and safety lighting, as well as the display lighting for the effect.
And I know, one thing's like with all projects, it's worth saying that not everything goes perfect every time. So we had our complexities. We had problems with the generator fuel line getting blocked and so on. But one of the things that was also really nice, and I know, Simon, I remember very clearly that we were talking at the time, when we got into the weird, we try and do last minute changes. I changed the patch and I didn't know what I was doing. And it was, I remember I was standing
that was
in the
Saturday.
I think,
Amy, that's what we were. This was the Saturday morning when I picked up this email. I think because we always have someone watching support at the weekend, and it was my weekend, and I picked up this email and I thought, I'm going to have to go into the office now, because this thing flies. I think it flew that evening. It
did, and we'd broken something. I had got something very wrong in what I was doing, but of course, the business we're in is it has to be perfect on the night. That is literally what this is about. And of course it was. Everything was systems go, it's amazing.
I think we also, I remember the challenge at the time. I mean, you said earlier there certainly weren't many solutions that could have done that many fixtures in a solid state form. There also weren't many of our solution. There weren't many units produced. It was you were one of the very first users of the
I
LPCX.
think we had a very low serial number. I remember that.
Yeah, very low serial number. So we had one in the office that I could test with. You had one, but you know, we were still building things in a cupboard in Shepherd's Bush, very much to order. So the concept of there was no like backup unit. We couldn't just send out another one from our. I think this was it was the Rio launch that you had the problem with at the last minute. So there was no concept of getting another unit to Brazil in any sort of time frame. You know, if had that been any sort of problem, but fortunately it wasn't. You know, the unit was fine, but you know, you had to solve it from you know, tools you had available on the site.
And with guidance from you and your team, which is really good, because it's, you know, it's sometimes you're out in the field and you're literally left with just the equipment you've got. And you know that the equipment can do the job. It's just sometimes you just have to massage these systems in, especially when you're breaking so many rules in the first place of how you're using them. And and it really worked. And you know that I mean I will hedge a bet here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be correct about it, but I doubt there's that many Pharos products that have flown in so many continents in the world. And we've done 3 continents now.
I think yours is probably the only one that's flown in many places. I definitely didn't appreciate at the time. I mean, obviously afterwards we saw the videos and so on. I just thought you had the unit on the helicopter and you were kind of there with it. The fact that you had managed to use our equipment in that way, I mean, as it was designed for, but you'd managed to do the remote triggering from the ground.
The rules of the helicopter flight, and this was actually true in Europe, South America and North America. The rules were that we couldn't have anything between the helicopter and the UFO other than just the strop line itself. So we could have a physical cable supporting the weight to the structure, but we couldn't run any power or data to it. So the UFO actually had to be treated as a totally self-contained like piece of cargo,
just
almost.
A weight on a string.
So I remember what we did. We actually used I believe, I may be wrong on this, but I believe it was the RS-232 ports on the back of the Pharos or whatever, or RS-485, whatever the serial port was on there. And we interfaced our own radio beacon communication system that interfaced, and then that acted as triggers into the timeline sequences to then progress the Pharos on. So that's how we got the real-time control without connection from afar.
I see. You know, I never knew that. I didn't. I knew you were doing it, but that wasn't. You know, you did all of that yourself. We just provided the tools.
It was really good. And just picking up on what you were saying, it is true. I mean, I know there are. You know, technology progresses fast, but this is back in the day when, first of all, there weren't many options. So really, Pharos was one of the only people who were building proper solid state systems which could drive large arrays of lighting. But just to put that in timeline, this is also back in the day when all the magazines and all the press was still in print. I mean, this UFO graced the covers of Design Week, The Guardian, and all sorts of newspapers. And there was something really satisfying about this kind of crazy physical digital lighting stunt that was kind of making its way around the world and still getting picked up in serious press. It was all around a wonderful experience.
Did you build each UFO in each? Presumably, you didn't ship the UFOs around.
No, we did. We shipped them. So it was built.
Oh, really?
We did a lot of the structure itself was built with light structures, who I believe is now ProLight.
Yeah.
So it was all custom engineered truss. It had to be kind of weight efficient. It was just an amazing, just all round set of skills and fabrication techniques coming together. And then we moved on to London and we created this flight for Microsoft. So
you kept it around sort of just in case, or did you know the other orders would come in?
So this was different. So the UFO, Peter Coffin kept the UFO and was ready to deploy, and then subsequent to that, it was Microsoft came to Cinimod Studio and said they wanted to do an aerial stunt or something big. I think they actually originally wanted to do a Batman logo projected on the clouds. I pointed out that how, really that doesn't actually work in real life. But what is feasible is to do a huge UFO flying over a city, which, again, it was kind of one of those kind of like, are you sure? But so what we did for Microsoft is a whole new structure, and it was 50-foot diameter. It was a 2-ton structure, so big that we had to bring in a Norwegian helicopter, a Norwegian flight crew, flying a Super Puma helicopter into London. They came into London. We had the Thames River closed down for 45 minutes, so no traffic on the Thames. And I was on the phone with London City Airport, who were giving the final no go on the flight control for the day. And then this giant orange halo UFO floated off, and again, lifting with it the Pharos that was running the sequences. So,
and who got the I mean, did Cinimod Studio, were you directly responsible for the helicopter? I mean, I can't,
yeah,
I don't know where I would
were.
start
So,
to get a helicopter.
No, it was one of those funny projects. The structure we were building it here in London, but it was originally destined to fly in the US somewhere, I think around Chicago, and the FAA, the flight control people there, decided that they wouldn't accept it to fly in the US. And Microsoft, to their credit, had taken a huge punt on it. I mean, these are expensive endeavors, but they did their best, and they were willing to cancel it. And it was actually somebody in my studio at the time who goes, well, hold on a second, here in London, there is actually a flight corridor down the Thames. So we did a bit of research, and we were able to go back to Microsoft and go, you know what, I think we can do it in London. So from that point, we took full responsibility of finding the helicopter pilots and doing the clearances, and it got done. And it was,
you made the suggestion. You sort of gave yourself that responsibility. I think we could do it down the Thames. Fine, yeah. You do it.
And it is quite satisfying to do these things in your backyard. It's kind of like you get more friends and family who get to see it. In this case, it was 6 million people saw it. So
exactly, it was really very obviously Pharos. Based in London. The LPCX was built in London, and it was nice. It was nice to bring the whole project home.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just a phenomenal endeavor, and it's really great to understand just how many sort of quirks and peculiarities went into the design and the kind of delivery of getting this incredible art installation, or this piece of art into the ether, which is just wonderful. And as viewers have been watching, they've seen clips of the UFO in flight, which is just
right.
as incredible now as it was back in 2008. So it's just been an absolute pleasure to be able to dive in and kind of hear both of your experiences. And Dominic, we're really, really happy to have you as part of the campaign, and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm honoured to be part of your campaign. It's, as I said, it is a project from the past, but it's one that was pushing its boundaries. And of course, as you know, I still get involved in all sorts of weird and wonderful projects. And it's really nice to see how something stands the test of time. And it's fascinating. And we still use Pharos equipment here in the studio all the time, so it's amazing how these things live on.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe not as well travelled though. The controllers in those projects.
Yeah, health and safety rules and stuff all changed. It's we have to stay a bit more grounded these days.
That's it. Oh, it's been awesome. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to feature the project.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you both. And